Well, we get membership cards, but I still get one too. Yeah. He was the one that was oldest first.
That's like asking why am I not covered by her health insurance?
Yeah. Okay.
I stopped getting it when we got married. And I didn't need it as a county because I was covered under health.
You're like alternative
Yeah.
services.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I was listening and not speaking.
You're early. I'm after Chief, that's something I know.
And I'm after you, right? How are you?
Yeah.
Good to see you. Good. Thank you. You too.
Technically, it's not like I'm just doing this if they want me to. Because it's on.
Remote today. The other two. Hoping if there's- Did we figure out how to connect it to these? And so he emailed Diane too. And she told me.
So I went through, so 5 driveways, I didn't include,
It's a lot of driveways.
it is, because I'm assuming I'm gonna condition this one too. I don't know if he's doing improvements on this one, if you want to. So you've got 1, 2, 3, this is a split, but he's a condition, you can do it anyways. Plus all the vertical.
Yeah. Yeah, someone's full of it.
Cut a lot of stuff on the transition plan, so they do have a lot of barriers out there.
Where did you think? Whether we could.
We could magically, because
Yeah. They're lucky they didn't sue.
Amy, ready? Ready? Doctor, ready? You ready?
Sorry, I want to get out of this document and go, it's in good reader.
You know that today is National Technology Competition Day.
We'll have you do that proclamation. Oh, ready? Okay, we'll go ahead and call the regular meeting to order. If you could all rise and join me in the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item.
I'll call the roll. Councilmember Karpinski Costa,
Present, and it is National Technology Recognition Day or something.
Councilmember Lopez Taff,
Present.
Councilmember Middleton,
Here.
Vice Mayor Daniels,
Here.
and Mayor Schaefer.
Is he on?
You're on mute, Mayor. There you go.
Okay, there we go.
There he is.
All right, I'm here.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next item, please.
Next item is a video statement. This meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption and live stream at citrusheights.net. And tonight's meeting replays on Monday, May 15th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. And this meeting can also be viewed on the city's YouTube channel.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Next item is approval of agenda.
Move approval.
Okay, moved by Dr. Karpinski.
I second.
Second by the mayor. Any questions, comments? No? We'll do a roll call.
Yeah. Councilmember Karpinski Costa,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez Taff,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Daniels,
Aye.
and Mayor Schaefer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item, please.
Next item is public comment. If you wish to address the council during the meeting, please fill out a speaker identification sheet and give it to myself, the city clerk. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes each. When your name is called, please step forward to the podium and state your name for the record. And at this time, I do not have any speaker sheets.
Okay, I'm going to go to City Manager Ash Feeney for a statement.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Daniels. Good evening, council. Ashley Feeney, your city manager. I just wanted to make a statement. There's been quite a bit of discussion out in the media about the status of the Navigator program, not only here in Citrus Heights, but countywide. And I just wanted to reassure the public that the Navigator program is a critical program for the city of Citrus Heights. We're actively working with our partners at the county, as well as third-party service providers to ensure that that program continues. So I think we'll have some announcements on that in the coming weeks, but I just want the public to rest assured that we are working diligently to continue that program.
All right, thank you, sir. I have no sign-up sheets for public comment. Do we take it any other way still? Do we take it over?
No, just in person tonight.
Okay, all right. Next item, please.
Next item is presentation number 4, proclamation of the City of Citrus Heights, proclaiming May 12th, 2023 as Provider Appreciation Day.
Okay, I'd like to invite up Sharna Brox, I hope I said that right, from President and CEO of the YMCA of Superior, California, and Tara Taylor, Founding Executive Director of Single Mom Strong, to the podium to accept the proclamation. Yes.
It appears we only have,
So there's two, but only one of them's here right now. It's the same proclamation.
Okay. I'm happy to do this. Organized.
Whenever you're ready.
No, I'm just reading the directions. There's the directions. Just read this. Proclamation of the City of Citrus Heights proclaiming May 12th as Provider Appreciation Day. Whereas Child Care Aware of America and other organizations nationwide are recognizing child care providers on this day, and whereas child care provides a safe, nurturing place for the enrichment and development of millions of children nationwide and is a vital force in our economy, and whereas the City of Citrus Heights recognizes that child care has been a lifeline for families, communities, and the economy, and as such has provided much-needed support to providers to help sustain the viability of childcare. And whereas the City of Citrus Heights has provided community support grants to Campus Life Connection, who has successfully been operating the Sayonara Center located at 7836 Sayonara Drive since 2012. And whereas the center provides after-school programs and tutoring to increase academic performance and school attendance, social and personal skills, healthy snacks, and involvement in sports. And whereas the City of Citrus Heights has also provided community support funding to Single Mom Strong to expand the empowerment preschool and child care center. And whereas Empower Me, am I saying that right? Empower Me Preschool and Child Care offers affordable, quality child care to Citrus Heights and Sacramento region families. And whereas our future depends on the quality of the early childhood experiences provided to young children today, support for high-quality child care represents a worthy commitment to our children's future. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Citrus Heights does hereby proclaim May 12, 2023 as Provider Appreciation Day and urges all citizens to recognize child care providers for their important work. Do we want to all?
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm going to have you go down and
Do this?
take a little picture and all that fun stuff, and then we'll have you say a few words, okay?
This way you have the evidence in your hand.
They're the same.
Could y'all come this way, not so come this
We gonna do photos? Yes. We gonna do photos first?
Just you. Go ahead. Yeah, just you.
Just me?
Just you. You got it.
You're the photo winner. And where are you?
Do you know that today is also National Child Mental Health Year?
Very good to know.
All right. Going to have you guys say a few words.
I would love to. Thank you. Wise words said in that proclamation. Anytime we can call attention to the lack of affordable quality early childhood education and put our heads together to work toward better solutions in that environment, I think it's important. I'm really, really grateful of the support of the City of Citrus Heights, or for the support of the City of Citrus Heights consistently over several years. It's because of your support that our programs have grown so much. In this last year, we added infant and toddler care to our programming, and we're really proud of what we've created. I know that there's still a long way to go. So many providers closed as a result of the pandemic, so I would encourage you to really listen to the providers in your city and continue to support our efforts. So thank you again for this recognition.
Thank you. Sharna?
Thank you so much for showing that you support childcare professionals. You believe in the importance of the work they do by giving us this proclamation. We really appreciate it on behalf of the Sacramento County Coalition of Child Care Providers and the YMCA. We thank you so much for your support and for your appreciation of all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments or anything?
I have one. To support Single Mom Strong, buy your fireworks in front of Sprouts this year. Single Mom Strong and Area 10 are partners, so it helps. And also, you know, the Sayonara Center, when Natalie and I deliver food, one of our clients that we deliver food to is a magician. So we lined him up to do a performance next Monday at the Sayonara Center for the kids. So if anybody wants to come and see some magic, he does table magic, so it's easy to stand around the table and see the magic he does, but he's going to be there at 4:30, so at Sayonara Center. So we appreciate what the work is that you do with the children.
Thank you. And yeah, thank you for what you do. You hit a really critical area, critical need for our city, you know, our county, our state, our nation. It's really God's work that you do. Thank you very much. Next item.
Next item is presentation number 5, proclamation of the City of Citrus Heights proclaiming May 14th through 20th, 2023 as National Police Week.
Thank you. I'd like to invite up Lieutenant Ken Lewis to the podium to accept the proclamation on behalf of the Citrus Heights Police Department. Hello, sir. I'm going to read this to you and then come down and we'll take a picture and have you say a few words.
Okay.
Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officer Memorial Day and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas from the beginning of this nation, law enforcement officers have played a vital role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms which are guaranteed by the Constitution and in protecting the lives of property and our citizens. And whereas policing in the United States is a noble profession of tremendous responsibilities, perilous challenges, and great importance to American society. The actions of any one police professional in any instance can save lives and influence individuals in impactful ways. And whereas it is important that our citizens know and understand the challenges, duties, and responsibilities of their police department and the necessity for working together with them in maintaining law and order. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we express our gratitude for the dedicated service and courageous deeds of law enforcement officers and for the contributions they have made to the security and well-being of all our people. And now therefore it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Citrus Heights does hereby proclaim the week of May 14th, 2023 through May 20th, 2023 as National Police Week, and May 15th, 2023 to be National Peace Officer Memorial Day in honor of all peace officers who through their courageous deeds have served the community across this country.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Ken Lewis. I'm a lieutenant with your police department. For generations, courageous men and women in our nation, law enforcement community have dedicated their lives to protecting us in big cities, small towns, suburban neighborhoods across America. Each morning, police officers pin on their badge and walk out the door to go to work, hoping they'll come home that day. Sadly, in 2022, 245 law enforcement officers paid the ultimate sacrifice, 12 of which were in the state of California. On Peace Officer Memorial Day and during Police Week, we express our gratitude for these selfless public servants who put themselves in harm's way to keep us safe and honor those who have lost their lives in the line of duty. This year's memorial is taking place locally at the state level and in Washington, D.C., will be especially somber as Elk Grove police officer and former Citrus Heights police officer Tyler Lenahan will be honored for paying the ultimate sacrifice on January 21st, 2022. Several staff members from our department attended the Sacramento Police and Sheriff's Memorial on May 4th, as well as the State Law Enforcement Memorial on May 8th, to pay respects and honor those they gave their all to protect our communities. On behalf of Chief Alex Turcock and the men and women of the Citrus Heights Police Department, I want to thank the council for recognizing National Police Officer Memorial Week and your continued support for your police department.
Thank you, Lieutenant Lewis. Any words from the council? I'll just say thank you Thank you from deep in my heart. 245. Wow, man, 245. 245 people that don't get to go home, that don't get to go home to their wife or their husband, to their kids. And we see what American media too much focuses on. And if you didn't hear that number here tonight, you probably would never know. 245. It's just amazing. Next item, please.
Next item is presentation number 6, the proclamation of the City of Citrus Heights proclaiming May 21st through 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week.
Okay, I'd like to invite up the incredible Regina Cave, General Services Director Extraordinaire, to the podium to accept this proclamation on behalf of the American Public Works Association. I'm going to read this and then come down, we'll take a picture and have you say a few words. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to the sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Citrus Heights. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and most importantly, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and youth of Citrus Heights to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association and Canadian Public Works Association, and whereas the American Public Works Association has selected Connecting the World Through Public Works as the theme for National Public Works Week 2023, which symbolizes how public works connects us all, whether through infrastructure or first responder services, and how public works professionals enhance the lives of the communities they serve. And now therefore it be resolved that the City of Citrus Heights does hereby designate the week May 21st through 27th, 2023 as National Public Works Week, and urges all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public work professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life.
The right angle, I'm making you look good.
See what you're missing, Tim?
What's that?
Did you see what you're missing?
I see what I'm missing. I do. Congratulations, Regina. You and your team.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. It is my pleasure on behalf of the Sacramento chapter of the American Public Works Association, as well as your Citrus Heights General Services Department, to accept this proclamation and recognizing National Public Works Week. Citrus Heights Public Works staff, your general services staff, are hard at work on a constant basis ensuring safe streets, connections with all of our community through our sidewalks, our trails, and ensuring a bikeable community. And so we just really thank you for recognizing all the work that we do. I appreciate it.
Now's the time to pump your public works showcase.
I was going to, however, our city manager will be doing that.
Pump it up.
So we do have our Public Works Showcase next Thursday, May 18th, from 3 to 6 p.m. over here at Van Maren Park. We're bringing it back as we had last year, but even bigger. We'll have a lot of great opportunities for kids and adults alike to come out and meet with Public Works employees, not only from here, but from consultants and from other agencies such as SMUD, the Sewer District, Citrus Heights Water District, to really understand what Public Works does, look at the career opportunities within Public Works, and take a look at a lot of the cool equipment we're going to have out there as well.
Do you go to high schools and kind of talk to career kids and so that they know these jobs are out there? And I don't think that when I was in school, we ever knew these kind of jobs were available. And so that you could say, geez, when I grow up, I really want to work down at that sewer district.
Exactly. That's kind of part of that career technical education I think we've been talking about, and I've spoken with the mayor about as well. We have been in communication with the schools here. We have delivered flyers, so all the students received flyers in their backpacks within the last month, so they were able to take the information home to their parents and hopefully bring their parents along with them to come and talk to staff and
We could offer like a ride-along, or a work-along, whatever, kind of
internship.
internships. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that'd be good.
Good. Any comments? Okay, go ahead. Portia.
So it's not sexy what you do, but I want to make sure that we acknowledge the fact that when we had those record rains this year, that our creeks did not flood. Our streets remained clear. A couple extra potholes, as to be expected, but because of the work that you and your team did previously to prepare us for this, we were well ahead, and I deeply appreciate everything you guys do. You don't see it, but it's happening behind the scenes, and it keeps the city moving. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, any comments?
No, I made my comments, but I'm just so proud of our team, Public Works, that General Services that work so hard. And to just echo what Councilwoman Middleton said, the preparation is everything. And that really showed through this last storm season. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just say thank you too. Everybody thinks it all happens so easy, and the thing that's so amazing about what you do and your team does is that there's so many external factors that affect you. And whether it be funding, whether it be materials, whether it be this, whether it be that, so much of what you don't have direct control over impacts what you're trying to do to make everything look nice and smooth here in Citrus Heights. And I wish people understood and appreciated a little bit more where we are today in 2023 as opposed to where we were before 1996. And it's night and day. It's really night and day. And it's just going to keep getting better because we get our property taxes and more money. And so we'll be spending more and more on doing what's best for the city. And we really greatly appreciate you and your team for steering it in the right direction. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Next item, please. Yes.
Next item is presentation number 7, a proclamation of the City of Citrus Heights proclaiming May 2023 as Building Safety Month.
Okay, I would like to invite up the smooth and always calm Casey Kempener. Did I say it right, Casey?
Close. Kempenar.
I'm sorry, Kempener. Community Development Director to the podium to say a few words. And Joseph Cuff, did I say that right? Yes, Chief Building Official to accept the proclamation. I'm going to go ahead and read this, and then we'll come down and do the picture thing and have you guys say a few words. Whereas our city is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential roles our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes, which, did you feel the one today? It happened.
Was there one today?
We had an earthquake today. Yep. Whereas the Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas it starts with you, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, why you have to throw it at me twice, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the City of Citrus Heights do hereby claim the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join us as we participate in Building Safety Month activities.
Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure to introduce you to Joe Cuff tonight. He joins us. He's been here about a month now. He's our new building official. So what more appropriate time than Building Safety Month to introduce him to the council to accept this proclamation. Joe has a wealth of experience. He's worked in Sacramento County, Rancho Cordova, in the private sector, and we're pleased to have him on our team.
Now dance. Okay.
Any words from the council?
I'll say a couple.
Go ahead.
Hey, Casey. Hi, new guy. So glad you're here. But, you know, you guys do some tremendous work. And, you know, I'm a big housing advocate. So when we came out with our pre-done accessory dwelling unit plans, that was a huge thing for Citrus Heights. And you're always on the cusp, always forward thinking about how do we streamline the process from our online one-stop permitted shop to working with individuals who want to come and build in Citrus Heights. You always go above and beyond. And as a council, we deeply appreciate all those efforts. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Mr. Mayor, anything?
No comment, thank you, but I'm very appreciative. Just the comments this council's made already is very good.
Yeah, again, thank you. It's work that goes unnoticed until an earthquake hits. And, you know, I've seen it around the world, where things have happened and buildings have come down when they shouldn't have come down. And, you know, that's why we have these kind of things. And so, and it goes way beyond that, way beyond that. But it's, again, an area that people, I don't think, appreciate enough and understand enough and realize that without this kind of structure to a city, to a government, we would probably see people suffering and killed in situations. And so thank you for what you do. Thank you very much.
Do you still have the building safety open house? Remember, you used to have an open house, and do you still do that?
A lot of events this week, this month.
When is it?
A display out in the
The microphone.
We are doing a lot of events throughout the month. So we have a public display out in the public counter area. One of our permit technicians, Susan McClendon, is doing a bunch of different activities that highlight Building Safety Month.
When is that? Because I promised you some crayons. When is it?
If you want to bring them anytime. She can move her things around as much as she needs to use them.
When is it, though?
It started last week.
Is it every day that someone can come in? Is it lobby?
Yeah, she's doing an activity every week. And so at the end of every week, there'll be prizes and there'll be giveaways. So as soon as you can bring crayons, she'll use them.
All right, I'll get them.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is comments by council members and regional board updates.
All right, we'll start with Portia.
Nothing exciting going on in my world, which is really unusual for me. I'm usually really busy. So instead, I'll just say for all the moms out there, Mother's Day is coming. For all those people who have moms, Mother's Day is coming. Get good stuff. We don't want flowers. We don't want robes, okay? We want good stuff like chocolate or pizza, tacos. Tacos are good. But other than that, you know, have a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Jane.
Just like Portia, I've had a very, very quiet couple weeks, so I have nothing to report. And happy Mother's Day to the moms in our audience and in our city.
All right, Dr.
Well, I'm glad they all yielded me their time, because I've been busy. Well, first I fell, and I fractured a few toes, so if I'm limping around, that's why. Before I give my reports on my boards, I want to kind of bring up something that wasn't mentioned last meeting from my mosquito district. You may or may not know, and I hope that people are watching this meeting, is that mosquitoes also carry dog heartworm. And so if and the dog heartworm mosquito generally lives in tree holes. I'm motioning, for those who can't see, that's a tree hole. It's up in your tree. There's nothing you can do to drain the water out of a tree hole, but those little mosquitoes don't fly very far. I don't think they fly more than a couple 100 feet. So if you have trees and you have tree holes, you have mosquitoes, you have a dog risk. So my recommendation is to make sure your veterinarian fits you with the appropriate mosquito prevention, heartworm prevention medicine, because treatment costs lots and lots and lots of money, whereas prevention is relatively cheap. And so, and with the tree hole mosquito, and then as the season progresses, other mosquitoes take on that job. And then the symptoms don't show for several months, so they can get bit today and then fall before you get diagnosed. So best to do prevention. So on that note, I did go to my sewer board meeting. The good news is there will be no sewer rate increases in this fiscal year, but look for some perhaps next year. Hopefully they'll be small, but there hasn't been a fee raised in years and years and years and years and years. And so, and that's because of the wise administration they have. What other was interesting at the sewer is if you are one of the 17,782 delinquent accounts, you have until July to square away your account, or it will be turned over to the property tax roll. It's just hard to believe that there are 17,782, and most of them are residential, not businesses, and that it's valued over at $11 million worth of fees that have been unpaid to the district. So I find that incredible. I find it incredible. So that's the sewer. We also had a STA meeting. And we're getting, I don't know how we report these in our budget, but we're getting $4 million from Measure A money to do Auburn Boulevard. So that's in there. We did our budget today. That's in there. The bad news is the Abandoned Vehicle Service Authority, that and the police would want to know this, that normally when you get an abandoned vehicle, you tow it, you do whatever you do to it, and then you submit the cost of that to this authority, and you get refunded the money. And Citrus Heights has in the past gotten a substantial, probably more than any other jurisdiction, reimbursement for those costs. That has not been renewed this year. So it might be at the end of this fiscal year quarter before there's been some disagreement on legal language when the bill was introduced. So it's in the process of being hacked by people who are smarter than all of us put together, who can't come to some understanding. And so that bill is going to linger so we won't get any reimbursements for now. So we can just let them pile up, those abandoned vehicles, or we have to eat it. All right, that's there. We did get the 4 projects that we put in for was listed, our traffic control, wait a minute. I have a hard time seeing up far away here. These were good. This was our, we get $269,299 allocated for our 5-year plan for traffic control and safety. And we have asked for, this is over a 5-year period. So there are 4 projects listed in that. That included the San Juan, which gets some of the SACOG money too, and the Old Auburn Road, and 2 other things we had. But anyways, those are the 2 big ones I wrote down. I think some of just that. There was so much that went on because it's just, a lot of it was a long meeting too. Oh, the other board, bad news. Where's Mary? Is she here? Mary? They're gonna cut down the Smart Ride. Citrus Heights is the most expensive part of the Smart Ride. And so they are proposing to shrink the service area and eliminate certain parts of Orangevale and Fair Oaks. So people who use Smart Ride to go to and part of Antelope, so people that use to go to those destinations will have to make other arrangements. And I think what I want to do is maybe sit down with Regina and them and go over it, because I think there's a whole bunch of people that go for dialysis to one of those spots. So, that just came out today. My mouth was open. I was like, they're cutting Citrus Heights. It's almost like since Sparky died, they're gonna punish us. So, I don't like that. So we could set up some meeting and maybe, all right, so that was that. And what else? Oh, and the paratransit has a wonderful program to get people to farmers markets, but not in Citrus Heights. So they said we don't have enough low-income people. I thought we had plenty, but they don't. All right, well, that's that. What else? Oh, a couple of weeks ago, the mayor and I judged a debating contest held by the Lions, and the gal and Tom Sheeler was there, but the gal that the mayor and I moved forward, I went to her next level up. And she beat 3 other high schools, and now she's in the Northern California. She got $4,500 for a speech on whether social media is good or bad. So anyways, I did do that. That was fun. And like I said, I fell and hurt my feet. Other than that, I'm done.
All right. Just on Smart Ride, I'm pretty sure when that started, there was a predetermined end date for that program, pilot program, whatever you want to call it, for Citrus Heights. So I don't think we're being punished, but it was, I think, predetermined.
They're cutting some significant, they're cutting down the
Well-
hours, too. Right now, we go to 9 at night. They're going to cut it down to 7 p.m.
And the bottom line is, the truth of it is, Smart Ride is extremely subsidized, extremely.
And
And so,
I think they could look for grants. Maybe they need a grant writer, because they do some good stuff. They just need to get money from more sources than Measure A.
all right. So we did this, and so I'll do mine. Couple things. It's National Technology Week, if you.
It is.
It is, if you didn't know, so just.
Today is supposed to be the day.
It is. I want to apologize for missing the last meeting. I was under the weather a little bit. I was enjoying the wonderful experience for the first time in my life of a kidney stone, and it was not fun. And so I apologize for missing that meeting. Over the last few weeks, attended the chamber lunch a couple of days ago, had a great presentation on service dogs and the myths and the realities around all of that, especially as they relate to businesses. Wonderful presentation by a gal that trains service dogs and other dogs. Other animals too, I guess. Well, maybe they just do dogs for the one that presented, but just a really great presentation. Today I attended the Sunrise PBID board meeting. Really good things happening over there, and for you who don't know what a PBID is, it's the Property Business Improvement District, and it's the 1 square mile area approximately around Sunrise Mall or Sunrise and Greenback. Hundreds of businesses involved, and they do what they can to make it look nicer and keep it up. And they use security, they use law enforcement, and they do really good things up there. That's a good thing. And then Cap to Cap, I haven't been back since we went to Cap, and I think you guys all probably expressed your fun times, and we had a good time. We did some important work. I met with the offices of Congressman Garamendi, Congressman Ami Bera, and Congressman Tom McClintock for the public safety team. Important work, and there was about 400 of us, and I think it's money well spent for the city. And I think national, that's that, and I think that's it for me. Anything for you, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I have been traveling quite a lot, and I'm hoping that I'll be done traveling for the rest of the year at this point. So I'm currently in in Davidson, North Carolina. It's beautiful here, but very,
They
I
have a
thought
city hall
California,
that looks just like ours.
really. I haven't seen it. I'll have to take a look at it tomorrow before I leave town. But I'm shocked at how this little town of Davidson, I think the median home is over $1 million. It made it, you think North Carolina, you're gonna find some inexpensive homes, not here. They're all $1, $2, $3 million. So anyhow, that's enough about that. I did, when I went to cap, we actually missed a meeting with Kevin Kiley, congressman from District 3. And I had a meeting with him last Friday. It was a very productive meeting, talking about, I was on the economic development team, and we talked about potential economic issues that are coming through the Congress right now. So he seemed very in tune with what we're doing, even though he's not specifically our guy. He was one that we did meet with when we were back in Washington, D.C. So with that, I didn't really have much in the way of other meetings. Just been really busy with my day job. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Vice Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And one thing I did forget, the regional transit meeting, we obtained I believe it was $45 million grant or something to RT from the federal government, and that'll go towards 16 rail cars. So those babies are expensive,
Rail?
but, you know.
As in light rail?
Light rail, yes, light rail. 16. Okay, that's it. Next item, please.
The next item is consent calendar items 8, 9, and 10.
Would anybody request we remove any items from the consent calendar? Hearing none, I'll take a motion on the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Move approval.
Second.
I think Portia on the first, Jane on the second. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I just wanted to point out that the mall the Sunrise Marketplace is doing a mural development, and on our consent calendar we gave them, through our beautification, $20,000 to match the money that they're gonna spend to put some murals, like the one that's on the side of PetSmart that says destination. It's gonna be pretty, so we'll kind of wait till Lake comes in. And I did notice that the little works of art that are on all the utility boxes, how cool is that? I mean, I was sitting at a light and I looked at a utility box and I think it was a Cezanne or something. Yeah, it was cool.
Should go back behind the mall and look at the ones back in there. They're really nice.
Behind the mall or behind Birdcage?
Behind the mall, the Sunrise Mall, yeah, on the east side.
Ones that are gonna get torn down?
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll integrate them. Okay, let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Karpinski Costa?
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez Taft?
Yes.
Councilmember Middleton?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Daniels?
Aye.
And Mayor Schaefer.
All right.
Next item, please.
Next item is regular calendar, item number 11. The subject is fiscal year 2023, 2024, and 2024-2025 biannual budget overview and discussion.
All right, well, Vice Mayor, and Council, I wanted to take a moment here and Mayor, to introduce this item and just say a few kind of overview comments at the outset. Just really proud of the team that came together. This was the first budget that we collectively prepared as an executive team, and just really proud of the work that they did. We went pretty deep on the budget, and I know that has been really a time-consuming process for all the team and the wider teams that have been involved with that. So I really wanted to express my gratitude to them. And consistent with a team approach, you're going to hear from all the different department heads tonight. So promise I'll be brief here, and you'll hear from many others. But we're going to be handing the baton off throughout the presentation. So our Administrative Services Director, Susan Talwar, along with Tammy Nasardi, will go ahead and kind of orchestrate the presentation tonight on behalf of the team, and then we'll hear from others. But also, with the wider team, I also would be remiss if I didn't recognize Tammy Nassardi and also Alberto Presario for their work on the budget too, specifically Tammy, who did a lot of work on this. So definitely express my gratitude, as well as all the various department heads. If we can go to the next slide. So just an overview, we'll talk about our approach to the budget. I'll cover that. And then the actual budget, the proposed budget will be presented for the 2 fiscal years. And then Regina Cave, our General Services Director, will give an overview of the draft capital improvement program as well. So from the approach to the budget, a budget, I think, it should be viewed as a statement of your values for a community. And that's the way we really approach this budget, is keeping in mind the focus goals of the 3-year goals of the city council, as well as our focus area work plan. We took that as kind of a overarching consideration as we prepared the budget, and we're mindful of that throughout. And then from a fiscal prudence standpoint, the way we approach this, we did a really hard look at the actual expenditures that had occurred over the last several years. And then we also did a look back to like 16, 17, which was prior to the pandemic, to just kind of see where we were then. So the budgets that were prepared really represent an actual spend that we think, looking at the actuals that have occurred. And then in addition to that, we're really mindful of what do we need to make advancement in some of these areas, relative to the focus area work plan on infrastructure, dealing with blight in the city. So you'll hear specifics around those programs. And then also, how do we set our team up? We, from an operational standpoint, and you'll hear this from the team, really move some positions around within various departments to make sure that we're well suited to face some of these infrastructure challenges that we currently have. And we're also, for the first time, putting some general fund money into street repairs. And so in order to really kind of advance some of those projects, we've had to kind of retool the team a bit. But you're going to hear more about that. And so again, I think just overall, we really kind of set this budget up to, be fiscally responsible, and also really kind of think about operationally how we're going to serve the city. Our strategic plan 3-year goals that are adopted by the city council, these run through March 2024. Maintain and enhance fiscal stability, maintain public infrastructure, and enhance alternative modes of transportation, diversify for a resilient economy, sustain and preserve public safety, enhance community vibrancy and engagement. Speaking of the focus area work plan, the lot has happened over the course of the last year and a half, I would say. This focus area work plan was adopted in May 2022, and it runs through March 2024. This really helps clarify our mission as a staff team, and it was also adopted by City Council by way of resolution. And really, it was developed by going out and hearing from the community. And this focus area work plan very much informed our approach to the budget. Just to highlight it, the 4 focus areas we have: community image, economic development, community connection, and infrastructure. So out of those 4 focus areas, we have actually 48 different initiatives, and you can kind of see they're pretty well balanced among those various areas. So the programs that were stood up as coming out of this focus area work plan are funded and provided for in this upcoming budget as well. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Susan.
Thank you. So today we're going to take a look at our proposed budget, and some key items that we're going to highlight and go more into detail is our general fund, and also reviewing our other city funds. So that's our special revenues that are typically expenditures that are funded by themselves, the ARPA funding requests, and our capital improvement program. With that, I'd like to hand it to Tammy. She's, as City Manager Feeney mentioned, she is essentially like our budget manager here, and all things in knowledge of budgets.
Wow. So as you can see with the revenues, property tax, which is exciting, is that you're not going to see on the expenditure side that horrible word revenue neutrality anymore. We have the sales tax, which is our #1 revenue charges for services, those are such things as our community center rentals, planning fees, vehicle towing fees, those types of things. Intergovernmental revenue is our motor vehicle license fee that we get. And the others at the 21% are fines such as vehicle fines, red light cameras, franchise fees would be such as solid waste. TOT are transient occupational, which is the motels and the short-term rentals. License and permits would be business licenses, business permits. Other taxes are property transfer tax and utility user tax. Next slide. So then here is the general fund revenue that we are proposing for the 23-24 and 24-25 fiscal years. And then just a little fun facts is in regards to property tax. So for every dollar that is collected for property tax, the city receives 8.4 cents.
Cents or dollars?
Cents. For $1, we get 8.4 cents. The timing and amount of the payments are projected to be in December. Each December, we typically get 55% of all the property tax. In May, we get around 43%, and then in August, we get the balance. In regards to sales tax, kind of the same thing. For every dollar that's spent, we get a penny. So we're projected to get around 14 million, so that's a lot of pennies.
Okay, so just going over our general fund expenditures, each of the departments are going to go through each of their segments here a little more in detail. But just reviewing this, I wanted to go over, we have our amended budget here on the far left column, our proposed expenditures for 23-24, and what that changes net from this fiscal year of 23. And then we have our second to last column here, the proposed expenditures for 24-25, and the change from 23-24. So you'll see that. But I want to take a moment and highlight in the next slide our total expenditures here. Going through, our total amended budget for 22-23 is about $38.3 million, and we are projecting expenditures at about $39.8 million. So that's about a change of $1.4 million, or about $3.74 million. For 24-25, we are projecting about $41.2 million, and that's about $1.5 million change from 23-24. Do want to make note, and we will highlight it also later on in our financial forecast, that typically when we are modeling this out, we are modeling out about 4.5% inflationary factor, and through our team's approach, we were able to reduce it and have a net change of about 3.74%. So we're always trying to take a hard look at our budgets and our expenditures and see where we can pay attention to be more fiscally prudent. Some key changes that we're proposing to positions is basically, you'll see some of them on the left, and that we are changing over. And this was a big team approach from all of our department heads. What we did is we got together and saw what is our future upcoming operational needs. And with that, we were able to reorganize some of these positions to come up with about a half an FTE increase, and that's netting about $30,000. So each of the departments will go through and talk about the changes in their respective departments. So moving on into the Administrative Services Department, once again, just highlighting on our department in particular, some key changes. Wanted to take your attention to Information Services. With Information Services, we have about a $500,000 increase, and you'll notice this big increase, and that's predominantly due to the fact that we took the approach to centralize our IT, and I'll be talking about that more. We also have an increase in risk management, and that's predominantly due to insurance, and then some non-departmental expenses. So once again, in finance, one of our big key projects is to implement our new Tyler Munis ERP system, and that'll take about 2 years to turn around. In human resources, under risk management, we do have that $200,000 increase in insurance liability. Again, information technology, we decided that it's best to centralize all of our information technology or software and communication costs into one area. So it's now centralized where we can have a better handle on it. We are focusing on the city side, and then in the next fiscal cycle, what we'll do is we'll try to also pull in the PD side. So this increase is only on the city side, pulling in from the other departments. In non-departmental, we have our PERS unfunded actuarial liability. That has gone up about $250,000. And what that is for the pension that we have through PERS, it's not unfunded, it's us unfunding a liability that's on hand. And then going on to professional services, there is an increase of $60,000 for an annexation consultant.
Susan, before we get too far away from this particular slide,
Yes.
that review that you just did, I just want to point out that we did take advantage of some of the ARPA money in order to cover some of these expenses. Well, we're seeing them in the budget now, which is where they belong. Those are costs that we're able to leverage the ARPA funds to cover some of those costs, and that specifically was going to the upgrade to the IT system, and some of the police vehicles that we're going to see, and those are all covered costs were covered by ARPA funds. Very prudent use of ARPA funds. Thank you.
That's correct. So our Tyler Munis implementation and a lot of our hardware upgrades, IT infrastructure upgrades, did get approved for ARPA funding back in October of 2022. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Director Regina Cave to present on general services.
Good evening. So this chart here before you reflects just the general fund support to the General Services Department. General Services is largely supported through other funds such as solid waste, gas tax, stormwater, and Measure A. So for these items, for all intents and purposes, a lot of the operational costs, maintaining the buildings themselves and the staffing have stayed a little bit status quo. However, looking back at the chart previously that identified the new positions and some of the changes in the positions will affect some of these areas, specifically as you're looking at engineering, increasing a couple of our engineering positions to support council's focus of additional infrastructure projects and pavement operations, as well as our fleet management. General Services will be taking over fleet from the police department this next fiscal year in order to free up some resources for the police department in one of their sergeant positions. So that's why you see the increase from $174,000 to $736,000. The PD budget will be absorbed into the General Services Department. And then, sorry if you can go back. And then some of the other positions, one of the positions of the Facilities and Grounds Manager, we will be splitting that into 2 supervisor positions to be able to address not only the facilities and fleet needs, but the community center and events needs as we continue to improve and increase our event opportunities. Next slide. So for the overview for the community services aspect of general services, we'll continue with and bolster up our customer service and department support, not only for our engineering projects, but for our C-Click Fix and our public interface. Continue with our refuse, organics, and recycling programs as part of our state mandates, and continue our push with RT for not only our existing services, but improving upon a lot of the bus stop amenities that we have throughout the city in conjunction with our capital projects. For our engineering, we have our pavement resurfacing projects, again, as one of council's strategic goals, and increasing our capital project planning and delivery. We have a large list of projects that I will go over later within the CIP. And support for our development projects, as we have new development and redevelopment here in the city. And then our traffic signal operations, we are waiting to receive additional funding from a congressional grant that will increase our CIP delivery and allow for about $1 million worth of upgrades along Greenback Lane to support signal operations. And for our facilities and fleet, we have our Citrus Heights Community Center. We'll continue to bolster up our community center and look to see ways to help market it as a large venue here in the region for events, and also look to see what type of cost recovery of changes that we can make. Again, our fleet management, taking over the fleet from the police department and incorporating that into our existing fleet operations. And then bolstering up our community events as we have our Stars and Stripes event that will be launching this July 1st, and looking for opportunities of additional events throughout the year. And then lastly, our operations and maintenance, as we have about 6 months under our belt of our beautification crew and our collaboration with our partners over at the police department to address blight throughout the community. We have our creeks and channels and open spaces. As Councilmember Middleton mentioned earlier, we have a lot of creeks that we maintain here in the city, and we want to continue making sure that they are operating efficiently. And then our pothole repairs, as we have increased our pothole repair program by rolling out a lot larger mill and fill operations. We actually have some starting tomorrow and throughout next week as well. And then here before you are the positions that we are converting from the facilities and grounds manager. We will be converting that into 2 supervisor positions. We have a pre-existing budgeted operations manager position that will be providing for a principal engineer and associate civil engineer. And then we converted one of our program assistants to a program technician and are also adding an additional program technician position to our department to support our engineering needs. And that's it, and I will hand it over to Police Chief Turcotte.
Thank you, Regina. Good evening. Before we get started, I do want to thank my wider team as well. So our lieutenants and above and our command staff who monitor each piece of this budget and ensure fiscally responsible service delivery. And then specifically, Senior Management Analyst Cassandra Canan, who has the legacy view, much like Tammy, on the budget, where she knows where all the money has been for years, and she helps us do the math on it and make sure that all the numbers line up. So thank you to that team. You'll see here our overview of the general fund expenditures for the police department, which is both police and animal control. We also have code enforcement, though code enforcement is funded largely out of special funds through housing, so that's not noted here. We'll talk a little bit more in detail about the movements in the budget, but overall you'll see for the next year, we're looking at a reduction of over $300,000. And then in the year after that, a slight increase, which has a lot to do with personnel costs and some benefit increases there as well. So if we can go to the next slide. And looking at the budget, really are applying our values to the budget here too, is consistent with our strategic goals of hiring and retaining quality professionals, providing adequate training and equipment for public safety, and then constantly reorganizing and adjusting our resources as appropriate to continue to enhance that service delivery and quality assurance for the public. All right, next slide. Some of the adjustments, looking back, COVID was a little weird for financial forecasting. So we went through our recent actuals, but then also pre-COVID numbers and then adjusted that for today's dollars and tried to adjust down wherever possible to more accurately reflect actual costs and trends. Some items, and Director Cave already alluded to this, but some items that moved out of our budget just to be more appropriately managed in other places was the fleet, which also includes our fuel costs that are now being managed out of general services. And then, like Director Talwar discussed, communications piece for us is our cell phone management move to IT, and our software will follow probably in the next budget cycle. Some items that did increase, or kind of outside of our control. One significant one is our hazardous material contract with Sac Metro Fire. That increases 13% next year, and then has a growth of 3% after that. There's not a lot we can do there. They are the experts in that field, but it is a significant increase in the administration costs there. And then secondly, for the police-specific software, such as our computer-aided dispatch and some investigative databases, software licensing fees just increase on a normal standpoint, so that it's adjusted for there as well. Our personnel adjustments, with the migration of fleet to general services, our fleet technician at the PD will transfer over to general services and report to one of the new supervisors there. We created one additional dispatch position by reclassifying a current FTE. This will help maintain critical staffing for emergencies and allow some slack in the system to adjust for sick calls and other leaves that need to be utilized in there. We had a half-time, half-benefited CSO that we're upgrading to a full-time CSO. These CSOs are crucial to service delivery as they take the lower priority reports that aren't life and death emergencies, but it's a significant workload and a real asset to our free up our patrol officers to do more proactivity and things like that. We've also found that the CSO position is a great entry-level spot for a young applicant that needs some life experience and has to wait to age up to become a police officer. Many of our successful police officers started here as CSOs and are doing a great job. And then you'll see one officer position was removed, but don't fear, that just puts us back to our normal officer FTEs, because that was a additional grant-funded officer that we had for the last 2 years. That is just, the grant funding's gone away, so that position will as well. All right. And here again is those changes. So the reclassification was a vacant code enforcement officer to dispatcher. The police officer went away because of the grant funding, and then the 0.5 increase is the community service officer. And with that, I will hand it off to Director Kempenaar.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Next slide, please. So for community development, we've been pretty consistent. We are starting to see a trend of declining entitlements and new developments. So reflection of what the city manager had said, we need to save those opportunities to help support the council's focus on blight and so forth. So we saw an ability to eliminate some positions from community development to allocate them to other departments. So that's what you can see here as significant cost savings from community development by eliminating a planning manager and assistant planner position. And we're also carrying forward some of our more recent efficiencies we did in the last year, which was a consolidation of our housing and grants manager and housing technician position into one position to continue that cost savings moving forward. So you can see the next slide, please. So you can see here, we're not adding any new positions. We're just eliminating those 2 positions. You know, at some point, if we see development pick up over this next 2-year cycle, we might come and talk to the council about a need for some more support on that, depending on how the development projects move forward. So I'll turn it over to Director Huber.
Thanks, Casey. Economic Development and Community Engagement is a new department, and this is the summary budget slide. I want to acknowledge here at the outset that the delta that you see is essentially 3 things. It's getting the department set up, it's creating an operating budget to help meet the aggressive goals that we've set in our focus area work plan, and the majority of that delta is comprised of grant funds. Programs that previously lived in non-departmental areas that will now be under the community umbrella, the community engagement umbrella for safekeeping and administration, and hopefully pushing for full subscription rates on all of those programs. So because this is a new department, I'd like to take a moment and do a flyover of subject areas so that we can connect dots back to budget intentions and strategies. In this department is economic development, of which most excitingly launched this week is our business attraction incentive program. So over the course of this next 2-year budget cycle, we'll be marketing that aggressively to be able to create wins in that area. There are also initiatives connected to our Sunrise Tomorrow plan, a specific plan to redevelop Sunrise Mall and attract development. And under this area, we also administer a plethora of really great programs that we have for citywide business retention and expansion, including our Economic Development Support Grant Program, which went to council earlier this evening to help support Sunrise Marketplace with their mural projects. Another area under this department is communications. So coming up over the next 2 years, we'll be working on our Citrus Heights Cares communications plan for community pride and beautification. Also growing our Citrus Heights brand reach and engagement in general. And I want to pause here and underscore that in the budget, we've set intentions around really building our non-digital communications channels. We know that our digital channels are strong and accessible to folks who prefer to receive communications that way, but we've set a goal to increase non-digital communications to ensure inclusive engagement with as many residents as possible. We want to ask the question, who's not at our table yet, and how do we get them here? And we also have set intentions around growing our Connect Citrus Heights brand, which is our coalition of community groups. Next slide. Also really exciting under this umbrella is our new community engagement program, which is heavily represented under the community connection area of our focus area work plan. Here we'll be supporting and promoting our Citrus Heights neighborhood associations through effective marketing and engagement. We'll create really effective community engagement programming. We're playing right now with some concepts around grassroots micro events. We'll also be increasing our subscriptions to the Neighborhood Improvement Partnership Program, another really great community engagement program that Citrus Heights offers. And finally, we'll be administering our community projects grants and community support grants, all of which are now under this umbrella. Also, under the department umbrella is an upcoming grant strategy initiative, as well as the ramp up of a legislative and government affairs platform. Next slide. So how that's represented in the budget, as I mentioned, we transferred community grants that previously lived in non-departmental areas. So that includes our community support grant, the NIP and REACH grant, history and arts grant. We've reduced the economic development support grant slightly, but overall, we certainly have a lot to offer given the upstart of our business attraction incentive program. We've also added marketing and promotion initiatives, including those non-digital communications channels that I referenced, including citywide mailers, branded city giveaways, which will come in really handy at our upcoming citywide events, as well as resources for neighborhood association and community engagement programming. And with that, I'll turn it over to City Manager Feeney.
So that sounded like it takes up your Monday and some of your Tuesday, but what about the rest of the week?
Still working on the mic.
Okay.
All right, if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, I'll go ahead and present the city manager's office budget. You can see this budget covers city council, city manager, city clerk, when we have elections, and then also our city attorney. You can see from year over year, the total expenditures, which actually should say probably total budget for 22-23 was $1.5 million. You can see we're reducing that by almost $250,000. And then the next year we have some slight growth, primarily due to an election year. If we can go to the next slide. I'll go ahead and speak to kind of the ins and outs on some of the bigger items. For the city council budget, we do have a slight addition to that budget. The prior budget was put together during COVID. There really wasn't much happening by way of conferences and meetings, but I think it's very important that the community is represented by a council that has opportunities to learn about how they can best serve their community. So we did add to the conferences and meetings budget. And then for books and subscriptions, to the extent that council's interested in a topic, certainly want to have an opportunity to have a modest book and subscription budget to help you serve your constituents. For city's manager's office, we had some significant reductions there. The city manager is less expensive than was previously budgeted. And then also we had a change on the assistant to the city manager that was previously in the office was reallocated to the economic development and community engagement department. For city clerk, Amy Van did a great job of looking at her budget and really focused in on the actuals and the projected costs and was able to achieve some cost savings there as we go forward. And then in addition to that, previously there was a management analyst 2 position that supported the city clerk, and when she refilled that, she went ahead and reclassified it and filled it with an administrative assistant position, which is a lower cost position that still serves her needs. Just from an overall general fund budget overview, you saw a lot of ins and outs on positions. And you see a big focus on engineering when you saw those position changes. And that's really to kind of get at all the street repairs and all these CIP projects that we have coming down the pike. Council knows more than anyone, the residents and businesses are looking forward to having some streets addressed. So we really put this budget together to set us up operationally to do that. But the ins and outs on all those positions, we're proposing to have an increase of half of a full-time employee across all those positions you changed, so that you saw change. So we really tried to play with the hand that we have. and really try to, use those existing positions to kind of set us up for the future. The other thing that is new for this budget is funding for street maintenance and repairs. So the first time we're seeing general fund money going towards street repairs. It's not the only money. There's all the existing money that goes in that that Regina will talk about relative to, to gas tax and other fund sources. But these are general fund dollars that are projected $2 million for 23-24, and then for 24-25, $4 million, and that's projected thereafter in the long-range forecast. Also, as Councilmember Dr. Kropinski-Costa mentioned at the outset during council comments, we have $4 million that's been awarded for the second phase of Auburn Boulevard. And so that too will be transferred to the capital improvement program. And when we get to kind of the fund transfers, we'll kind of talk a little bit about how that works to make sure that that money's there when we need it. And I'll go ahead and turn this back over to Tammy for discussion on the ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act dollars.
So just a little reminder of how ARPA came about. So the money was intended to provide support to state and local governments in response to the COVID pandemic. The city received a total of $15,676, and let's try that again, $15,676,972, which was received in two payments back in May of '21 and May of '22. Originally, this entire amount of money could only be used on 4 different categories, which was the response to public health emergency and its negative impacts, which included small business loans, helping nonprofits and households, to provide government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue due to COVID-19, provide premium pay to essential workers, and to invest in water, sewer, and/or broadband infrastructure. Luckily, in April of 2022, U.S. Treasury came back and offered a standard allowance of revenue loss of $10 million, which allowed recipients to be able to spend the money in more broader, than before. It was very strict. So where we're at right now is we have the $10 million, but we still have to stay within the 4 categories for the remainder, $5.6 million. So what the city did is for the last 2 fiscal years, we've used this money to unfreeze the police positions that we had to freeze. So that's considered rehiring of public safety to pre-pandemic levels. We use the money for small business grants, and we are using it as Mayor Schaefer had mentioned about implementing information technology, major projects, including the city's financial system. Keeping in mind in this budget that we're proposing is we're looking to use additional restricted monies for the police department for 1 more year for those frozen positions, although they're not frozen anymore. Keeping in mind that this does not increase the PD budget, there's no new positions, and that these funds will be offsetting the general fund.
And the other component we have is also offsetting the fleet replacement. So we have a transfer to fleet replacements, and this will allow us to build up on that reserve and utilize ARPA dollars as well. So sorry.
Can I make a point of clarification just for the audience's benefit that all of this money must be committed by 2024 and spent by 2026? So it's not as though we could just say, well, let's just stick this in savings. It has to be expended, it has to be allocated by 2024 and spent by 2026, correct?
That's correct.
We can do that.
So just wanted to give a highlight on the transfers to funds that we have proposed. We have about, for both fiscal years, $210,000 for building maintenance, and for capital building equipment replacements, about $350,000. Information technology for equipment and software, we have about $150,000. And once again, fleet replacement is $400,000. Here you can see we talked about the transfer of the Auburn Boulevard project to a CIP fund so that it's secured for that use of $4 million, and then funding for the first time of street repairs and maintenance of $2 million and $4 million in 24-25.
So each year, we're required by California Revenue and Taxation Code, by the California Department of Finance to calculate our appropriation limit. It's basically, each local government must use their percentage change in population as of January 1, 2023, and come up with, and use the state's cost of living to come up with this appropriation. So what this is really saying is our general fund revenues using the per capita cost for the state and the population change for the city, which for this year is a negative 0.17. Last year, it was a negative 1.01, so we're improving. So our general fund is well within the appropriation limit at 44.15%. Last year, we were at 43.85%, so it has not changed that much. And then with the other city funds, also known as non-general funds or special revenue funds, these include many of the CIP funds that Regina is going to be talking about shortly. As Chief Turcotte had mentioned, this is where code enforcement and rental housing is, gas tax, drainage. With that, Regina is going to speak about the CIP and how she's going to make the city better.
I'll try. Good evening, council. So the capital improvement program is a tool that we use to kind of forecast not only revenues that we'll have coming in, but also to be able to plan for our long-term capital projects. State law does require that the city CIP is produced annually, covers again a 5-year planning horizon, and since we have transitioned to a 2-year model for this first 2 years, or excuse me, for this first 2 years, we will have it identified as a 2-year secured funding. So next year when we update the CIP, we will likely only have the first year shown as secured funding, and then the 4 years after that will shown as just planning until it comes back to council for formal approval. The CIP does not allocate the funds, but again, it's used as a planning tool, and prior to inclusion, projects are reviewed for consistency with the city's general plan. It is also presented to Planning Commission for findings to be consistent with the general plan, in which that was addressed last night at last night's Planning Commission. Next slide, please. So the 5-year look ahead, we have 23 projects planned over the next 5 years for a total of a little over $17 million for 23-24 and $34.9 million for 24-25. Approximately 30% or so for these first 2 years is secured by local funds, with the rest of it being grant dollars. So your staff have been hard at work securing grant funds. Next slide. The 2-year funding plan has 31 different funding sources. So we'll be doing a lot of juggling across our programs and our capital projects. So I'm not going to go through every single project, but just to highlight some of our larger capital projects that we have for this next 2 year. We have our Arcade Cripple Creek Trail project, formerly known as the Electric Greenway, which is well underway. We're more than 50% done, and we expect to be concluded this fall. We'll construct the 2.9 miles of the multi-use trail, primarily utilizing the SMUD electric corridor easement. This project was a successful recipient of large ATP, or Active Transportation Grant funds, with other local support dollars through our stormwater transportation and per capita state grant. And this project is consistent with Council's 3-year strategic goal to maintain public infrastructure and enhance alternative modes of transportation. Next slide. So our Arcade Cripple Creek Trail project, this is the extension that we just received, again, another grant to support design, right-of-way, environmental, and construction. This will construct a half-mile segment between the existing Arcade Creek Preserve just off of Sayonara, and will extend to Mariposa. Again, an ATP grant. For this one, we were able to leverage staff time. So instead of actually having to match dollars for now until unless that project increases in cost, but we'll be able to leverage actual staff time against the grant. And this project also supports a 3-year strategic goal as well. Our Auburn Boulevard Complete Streets Phase 2, we have received Caltrans authorization through our right-of-way certification, and we will be ready to advertise by this fall with the expectation of being under construction by this time next year. We have just received word that we are being for consideration at next week's SACOG board meeting for additional funds, and this will fund that final gap, which we thought we had addressed before, but as prices continue to increase, we found ourselves needing additional funding. So we'll be receiving over $8.1 million, excuse me, in additional grant funds. And to touch on what Councilmember Karpinski-Costa mentioned earlier, we'll be receiving also a Smart Growth Incentive Program funding from the Sacramento Transportation Authority, which will serve as matching dollars as well. So this project has multiple different funding sources, primarily from grant funds, but again, we will also be leveraging some local funds, some impact funds, and of course, our $4 million out of our general fund. And this does support our strategic goal as well. Old Auburn Complete Streets Phase 1, this will continue on with the design and environmental and right-of-way. We still have not secured construction dollars. We anticipate that to be in the next cycle or two through SACOG or through state ATP. The goal of the project is to construct improvements through Old Auburn to address all modes of transportation. And again, this project also supports a strategic goal of council as well. Our pavement restoration, this program has kind of changed over the last couple of years as we've talked originally about addressing our low PCI, which we weren't really getting anywhere. And so our new strategic plan is to address our higher traveled roadways, those locations that are not necessarily qualified for grant funds as larger complete streets, but we want to make sure that we're utilizing our funds wisely. So leveraging between our general fund dollars, our SB1 allocation, our Measure A, and our gas tax funds, we will be able to deliver much larger projects and be able to address a lot more miles of pavement. And this also supports council strategic goal. Roseville Road Butternut Drive Safety Improvements. This is also a new grant that our staff secured this recent HSIP cycle. This project will construct improvements over at Roseville Road and Butternut Drive to allow for southbound left turn movement safely into Butternut Drive, but because of this type of a program with HSIP, we will also be including additional signalized intersections for the back plates around the traffic signals. So those are those yellow reflective tape that you see around the traffic signals to bring more attention to those signals for higher safety and visibility, and this supports a council strategic goal as well. And then lastly, our San Juan Complete Streets Phases 1A and Phase 1B. Again, another project that we are being recommended for additional funding through SACOG next week's board meeting. This project will construct improvements from Madison Avenue up to Spicer, and hopefully in the future we'll be coming back for a Phase 2, which will connect it all the way up to Greenback Lane. This is from 2 SACOG grants with additional funding through SB1, stormwater utility, and contributions from SAC-RT for capital improvements, and then TDA funds as well. And this also supports a council strategic goal. And that concludes the CIP.
Great, and I'll just go ahead and speak a moment about our long-range forecast. You can see that's up on the slide here. But basically, if you look back, we have the fiscal year 21-22 on the left, and then fiscal year 22-23, the original budget, as well as the January forecast that was presented previously to council. So if you look at that forecast, we had a beginning reserve balance of $11.6 million. Our total revenues and our total operating expenditures, you could see there, and we ended up with a net operating position of just over $8 million. But we're projecting to end this fiscal year with an ending reserve balance of $19.6 million. And if you look down below there, we have the minimum reserve policy of City Council at 17%. So we're ending the year well in excess at that. If there's a city manager target reserve policy that I recommend that we strive for, I wouldn't say that it would be a minimum policy, but it's kind of a target goal, if you will. And that would put us at about $8.9 million for that target reserve. So you can see that we're in excess of that by about 10.7. So we'll begin next fiscal year with a $19.6 million projected beginning reserve balance. as was presented in the budget for fiscal year 23 and 24, and then 24, 25. You can see the revenues there, and I just want to take a moment and speak to the revenues. We did have a meeting with our consultant. They're a consultant that's held in very high regard throughout the state, HDL. And we went ahead and went through all the revenue assumptions just within the last couple of weeks with them, all the way out through 27, 28. So we feel very confident that we're doing a pretty accurate representation of what projected revenues are relative to some of the, some of the best forecasters in the state, all the way through 27 and 28. And then you can see on our operating expenditures going back to 23, 24, what's proposed in the budget for both 23, 24, and 24, 25, if you want to push your cursor there. Okay, great. And you can see what our net operating position would be. If we go to 23, 24, this was talked about, that ARPA funding that has some restricted funds to it that Tammy talked about, that would actually offset, so that's the police funded, continuing the funding of the police positions, but not an expansion of the police budget. And then coupled with that, there's $400,000 that go to fleet reserve, but that would offset our operating expenditures in 23 and 24. And then you can see below that, we have the street repairs that we talked about of general fund money, as well as the $4 million for the Auburn Boulevard match. That total of $6 million would be placed in a capital reserve fund. And this is something on like the $2 million, for instance. That is probably not going to translate to blacktop in 23, 24. We will actually have paving projects that are part of our regular paving, but what this does is it allows us to put money away in a fund, and then we're able to plan for some of these large projects that Regina Cave was talking about, and we know the money's there when we're ready to go out and execute on those projects, because those projects take time to scope, they take time to design, the bid out, and then they finally get into construction. So it's important that we place those back into a fund. But you can see we're projecting to have an ending reserve balance at 23, 24 of about $19.8 million, and then again, that would cycle back up to the following fiscal year. And so you can see how the model works throughout. Looking at the minimum reserve policy over the 10-year, you can see that we're meeting that, and we're actually also meeting and exceeding the target reserve policy in the following years. So that's just a general overview of the financial forecast. I think we've got another slide that if you want to see it in more of a chart form, but you can see the pink line down below would be the minimum policy. If the blue bars were below that, we'd be concerned. Or if they were kind of right at the minimum policy, that would be something that we'd want to be, paying very close attention into and talking a lot about. But based upon where we're at relative to revenues and projected expenditures, and as one of the things that Susan Talwar mentioned too, is the growth that we are projecting in the 23-24 and the 24-25 budget is still well below what we model relative to growth in operating costs. So I think from a budgetary standpoint, the city's in good shape, as you can see demonstrated by our financial forecast here. Of course, we can never predict the future 100%, but that's one of the reasons why the 25% target reserve is a best practice. From a next step standpoint, tonight, we're looking to get any feedback on the proposed budget, or if there's anybody that's watching at home or here in the audience, if you've seen something and you'd like for us to hear more about it, please go ahead and contact our team and let us know your thoughts. And then we'd be looking to come back to City Council on May 25th for an actual adoption of the budget. So similarly, if the council either tonight or between now and the budget adoption has things on your mind, I'm sure we'll be talking about them. So tonight, one of the things that I should note is these are draft numbers, and depending on some of the feedback we get, those may move around a little bit before we come back in for final budget adoption. But we would be looking to do that on May 25th. And then shortly thereafter, we'd be releasing the adopted budget book for the public on June 8th. And we expect to have some communications around the budget as well, specifically kind of talking about how it's really a community-facing budget consistent with a lot of the council priorities that your council's been working on to address community needs. And Susan and Tammy, I don't know if you had anything further to add?
No, that's it, thank you.
Okay, any questions, comments by council members? Portia?
Yes, well done. Very well done. You've managed to streamline the process here. We're able to meet all the goals that we've set. You're meeting those strategic buckets. I know it was a hard push, after our last strategic planning session, but from what we see here, it's doable, and we're actually able to meet our reserve budget also and keep you guys supported. So thank you so much for your hard work and taking the time to put it together and for this great presentation.
So Vice Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes, sir, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
So I just wanted to really thank our executive team for really working hard on this, and a special appreciation to Casey Campinar. It's tough to give up positions when they're allocated to you, but in the look of the big picture, I can't tell you, Casey, how much I appreciate your being a team player in this program.
All right, Dr. Jana?
That's it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Acting Mayor. We will have our strategic plan next week. Wouldn't we want to have to, at some point, adjust something in there based on discussions that we're going to have, or?
Yeah, absolutely. We're having with the city council, we're having a strategic planning retreat, and certainly as part of that, if
Something
something's
might come up,
Yeah, something, absolutely. I mean, these numbers are presentation of the draft budget as proposed today. I have no doubt there'll be some ins and outs by the time we get to May 25th, so.
I want to say that it is nice to see a reserve again. It's like we didn't have since Henry was here. So this is good. And it's like, I wish we could have asked questions, though, along the way, because now it's just overwhelming. But I do have one question that I remember having. Losing a code enforcement officer, it was my understanding that we were trying to hire more because we just didn't have enough to handle all the complaints that were coming in from the residents, and I'm just wondering why we could lose one when we thought we needed more.
Well, I think I'm going to hand that to Chief Alex Turcott.
There's never enough people to do the work, but we do have to figure out where we can best utilize the positions that we have. So that particular spot has been frozen for the last 3 years. It was not.
How many do we have? How many code enforcement officers?
We have 5.
Oh, we have 5.
Yeah, we have 5. So it's split between.
Used to have 2.
Right, it's split between pure code enforcement, and then the rental housing program provides for additional positions. So at the end of the hiring rainbow, if you will, there'll be 4 code enforcement officers plus a senior code that acts as a lead. So when we did an analysis on where to best.
So that was a vacant position that you just can eliminate.
It was a vacant position where we've been able to streamline some other processes in code enforcement, where they've been able to, continue with the workload without it, and we could always use more, but dispatch was where the crucial need was, because they were fundamentally at full staff. In dispatch, they were really at what industry standards would consider critical emergency staffing.
And why did animal control budget go down? Why is it going down? We found a better
That
way.
mostly reflects the fact that we have a
Better contract.
very, very good half-time animal control officer filling a full-time position. So while we kept that FTE there, Alexis Wagers, our half-time person, she's a very well-tenured animal control officer that we were able to snag from another agency, and she's doing a great job in there. And she has a young family. She might come back at some point in the future to full-time, but for now, she's doing a great job in that half-time
Well, if you're
spot.
happy with your budget, I'm happy for you, because the police budget to me is the most important thing in here.
Well, happiness wasn't a factor that I remember considering. If we could rework that, maybe at the strategic plan, we'll have another idea. No, it's very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let me just check here. Another thing I would have liked, if it's, how at the beginning of the thing, you showed all the in revenue sources? For the capital projects, it would be neat to see what we're getting from STA, SACOG, SB1. It'd just be you know, you said something in one of your updates to us that Amy Barra gave us 4 million for something. Is that in there?
That's not included in this budget because it's, check hasn't arrived yet, but we have a congressional appropriation that is in the proposed budget, and it's the
For Robert
proposed
Boulevard?
congressional, yeah, but we have $1 million for what they
Oh,
call.
for the Sayonara
Well,
properties?
yeah, so the $4 million is actually would be going to Habitat for Humanity, but it's something that we're supportive and excited about
Oh, so
because,
we don't get that, they do.
but it fulfills an obligation that we otherwise would have.
But we do have a partial obligation, so it doesn't fill any of ours?
They're fulfilling our obligation. So
Oh.
our memorandum of agreement, the agreement that we have with them, they are contracting with us to fulfill an obligation of the city. And so they are building it. They're the vehicle by which we're fulfilling that obligation. If they weren't here, we may have to have a build day.
But we were gonna pitch in some ARPA money for that, right? We were contributing some ARPA dollars for the building of those homes?
It wasn't ARPA dollars, but we had other fund sources
Okay,
that
some
were going
housing
towards that.
Money,
Right.
and we no longer are gonna use the housing money, we're gonna take the other 4 million? Or is this on top of?
No, this is, there was already a funding gap that they were facing, so they
Oh,
were out
right.
pursuing grants on their
okay.
own, but this helps them get there.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, we had $1 million for the intelligent transportation enhancements that really help us at some
Okay,
intersections that we have some challenges with right now.
okay, all good, I'm good.
Thank you. Jane.
As the most junior member of the council, I really appreciate you all spoke in English to us. It was really easy to follow. I can sense the camaraderie and everyone coming together on something that could be very, very difficult. And I just really appreciate that everyone shared the pain and the work. So, thank you.
And can you pull up page 6 again? Slide 6. Pressure's on, pressure's on.
I'm sorry, which slide?
It's 6 on my paper. It's the one with the pennies.
Oh,
Penny
sure,
slide.
understood.
Yeah, there it is. So, we pointed it out, but I just want to point it out more. I wish people understood this, and now you took it away again. I wish people understood this about how government works and how funding works, and when you buy something, you pay your sales tax and how it works. A penny, we get a penny of that, and you can see the state gets 6 cents of it. And what do you get for it? And we're trying to do all this stuff with that penny, and you wonder, like, what's the state doing with those 6 pennies? And so, when you make your decisions, keep that in your mind. What are your state people? What are your state legislators? What's going on with the 6 pennies? Because we're working our butts off here with the 1 penny. Imagine if we had just even 2 pennies. I mean, it'd be incredible. I mean, it really would. It would change the city dynamic incredibly. But instead, we have to send 6 pennies over to the state and scratch our head and wonder, like, what did we get for it? So that's my rant on that. I really want to thank the city manager, the staff members for an incredible report. It just keeps getting better and better is the way I'm going to put it. In the span of like a hiccup, literally a hiccup, it seems like we went from doom and gloom and, oh my God, we need to raise sales tax and, we need more money and what are we going to do, to these numbers that you see today, which are just absolutely incredible. And also, they include funding for the first time ever from the general fund to work on our streets too. And I wish people understood that too. So things are going great. This is a vibrant city. We couldn't have this report if this wasn't a vibrant city. So those doomsdayers that, like to talk about, how bad we're doing, I shouldn't say things like this, but feel free to move. But we're doing great. Citrus Heights is doing great. The city manager's great. The staff is great. The police department's great. The city council's okay, I guess. But everything is really going good in this city. And I just couldn't be more happy to have this kind of report come back. And really want to thank you guys. Really, really deeply thank you. Okay, this is a review and discuss. Anything else? If nothing, we'll go to the next item.
I just wanted to check to see if there was any public comment. I haven't received any speaker cards for that item.
You're going to know before I know. If there's anybody that would love to talk about this beautiful report, feel free to come running up. Seeing none, we'll go to the next item.
The next item is regular calendar, item number 12. The subject is resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Townsend Public Affairs. And the recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Townsend Public Affairs not to exceed $60,000 for the creation of a comprehensive grant strategy and implementation support for a one-year term.
Good evening, Mayor Schaefer and members of City Council. I am Megan Huber, Economic Development and Community Engagement Director. We'll get the presentation pulled up here, but this is a fitting evening to consider this agenda item. You just heard how the city of Citrus Heights effectively uses a penny, and this is about finding even more pennies. So consideration of implementation of a comprehensive grant strategy. This has been represented over the course of about a year of strategic planning objectives. It began in May of 2022 when we set an intention to create a comprehensive grants action plan. And then in the next round of strategic planning, we set an objective, council set an objective to select a consultant to begin creation of a comprehensive grant strategy. And in November of 2022, council approved issuance of a request for proposals to find said consultant. And staff began the process of finding the most qualified consultant in January and February of this year. So I want to pause for a second. I know the staff report was extensive and walked at length through the process that we went and what we were looking for. For purposes of general education, what you see on the screen is what a comprehensive grant strategy means for Citrus Heights. As staff sat down and said, how do we design a program, design a system that will help us achieve an increased volume of grants? These were the priorities that we outlined in the request for proposals. So what a comprehensive grant strategy will be for Citrus Heights, first and foremost, is an inventory and prioritization of existing and planned city projects. You heard from Director Cave, General Services, all of the capital improvement projects that we have. That is one slice of all of the projects and priorities underneath our city organization umbrella. So what this document will start with is an inventory and prioritization of all of that subject matter. And then we will create a comprehensive grant strategy that will be a living document of extensively researched grants that match those city priorities and projects. It'll also involve the development of a grants tracking tool to make sure that we're leaving no stone unturned and no grant unsubmitted. It's a priority for us that we're able to present council success metrics and tell the story of what this initiative will be able to produce. It also will involve a review of existing city policies and plans to make sure we can effectively meet requirements of grants that we're targeting. And finally, what we're really looking for, because we have a really lean, scrappy team that does a lot here at City Hall, we're looking for supplemental staff support to be able to meet that increased goal for increased volume of submissions. So the benefits of implementation of a comprehensive grant strategy are fourfold. First, as I mentioned, it'll allow us to pursue an increased volume of grants, and it creates the necessary staff support to be able to do so. And it'll also ensure that we have comprehensive tracking and reporting. Because we are a lean team doing a lot of things, grants are submitted and completed as an ad hoc basis, which can frankly be a little bit of a fire drill. So we're looking forward to building increased staff support and tracking all of those goals that we're setting. And overall, this will help advance city priorities and projects, find those additional pennies to be able to make stuff happen, which will allow us to maximize and leverage our local funding. We'll be diversifying revenue stream. And I think it's also important to note that this is an emerging trend best practice for municipalities. As we're looking to stretch our dollars more and more, supplemental funding does become even more important to be able to meet our community goals and priorities. As outlined in the staff report, we went through a pretty extensive RFP creation, review, and interview process to find the consultant that's a best match for our organization. And the staff recommendation after completing that process is Townsend Public Affairs. And we find them to be the best consultant for this initiative for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, they're an all-inclusive service that offers the widest and deepest variety of expertise that matches City of Citrus Heights goals and priority projects and initiatives. They've also have a really great system that will provide staff support, including monthly updates, assisting us, building a longer runway to be able to meet that increased volume of grant submissions. They're also really skilled and offer advocacy both pre and post submission. So it's a really holistic approach to grant submission and post-application review so that we can do, for lack of a better word, post-mortem and make sure that we have continuous improvement for our submissions. And I want to take a moment, representatives from the Townsend team are here tonight. So if it's okay, I'd like to bring them up for a quick introduction and a warm hello. Joining us is Vice President Casey Elliott and Grants Manager Alex Gibbs.
Good evening. Casey Elliott, Vice President with Townsend Public Affairs. Very excited to be here. As Megan said, we're very excited. We have a strong track record. Our company's been founded and around for 25 years, providing state, federal advocacy, as well as grant writing services to local public agencies. So cities like Citrus Heights are our bread and butter. We have offices here locally in Sacramento. Alex and I are both local. Actually, my mother-in-law lives in town, so very close. Very excited to be here in front of you. But through the way we're developed, we can be on the ground in Washington, D.C., working with granting agencies here in Sacramento, locally, and then leverage all of those relationships with funding agencies, leverage your legislators, leverage your congressional delegation, again, to put the projects that you have here, which you have a lot of great projects, you have been very successful, and we just want to be working with the team to kind of give you that extra boost, make sure, again, that there's no stones left unturned, and really that the city is able to put forth the best quality projects that match what the needs are of the community. So again, we're very excited to be here. Happy to answer any questions. Alex Gibbs, our grants manager, is the day-to-day expert on many of the programs that have been discussed today, as well as many others at the state and federal level.
Questions? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, and for some reason I know your company, and I'm just trying to place it, but over the years, your name's come up, so. But one of my questions was, for all the cities that you represent, and it was extensive number of cities, how do you prevent yourselves from having a conflict of interest of having two cities applying for the same pot of money?
Sure. A great question. I think one of the things that's really important in the grant world is ultimately we are as successful as the projects that our cities have. So oftentimes we're working with cities to take the projects that are already in development. How can we massage those? How can we make them better? In some instances, where are we not going to be competitive? Where should we refocus other resources to be more successful? There's always, at the state and federal level, over the last 20 years, there's always more demand than there are dollars. So that's difficult to get away from. But really what we do is we work with all of our clients to try to put their projects in the best position. Locally here, we don't have other overlapping clients. That's something that we look at when we when we originally applied for this. We wouldn't want to.
So you don't have a lot up here in the Sacramento area?
We work, for example, like with SAC-RT, the grant that you mentioned earlier, we wrote that grant. So we have some work here, primarily with SAC-RT, but nothing with other competing cities in the jurisdiction. Obviously, other places throughout the state and the Bay Area we do. But ultimately, again, we try to focus every one of our clients so that every project is put in the best light and given the best chance to succeed. Ultimately, the way we view it is, while there may be oversubscription of certain grant programs, we'd love to get all the money for all of our clients. And so on that sense, we aren't oversubscribed. We aren't putting in more requests for grants for our clients than we know there's dollars for.
Mr. Mayor, any questions for the Townsend folks? Tim, are you there?
Oh, Mayor, if you could just unmute your microphone.
Yes, great presentation. Thank you so much. No question.
Okay, and the only thing I would say is I'm gonna need Mom's phone number, so we keep the pressure on, okay?
And I can definitely do that, thank you.
All right, and then, any other questions or comments for staff presentation? Go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on return on investment. I think by the time we win our first grant through this relationship, it will more than pay for this particular contract. So thank you for sticking through this process. I really appreciate having a really focused activity here because we were good on our own. It sounds like we're going to get really good with a partner. Thank you.
I think we're getting the best bang for the buck when you compare all of the responses that you got. Some of them wanted more and gave less. And I think what they offer with the monthly meetings with you guys and the constant, working on it, I think that's good. I'm really, really, really glad you found this group.
Good. And my comments will be, this kind of came up during Cap to Cap, as we talked to staff members that, they really kind of emphasized, you really need to have the right information. We really need to see the right words and all that kind of stuff. So this is spending money to make money. And for the naysayers out there, if you don't get it, I don't know what to tell you. But this seems to be a good thing, and it seems like we should do this definitely.
There's a whole knack to writing grants. I mean, it's like people that you'd have to have a full-time staff person here if you didn't have.
There literally are trigger words. You got to write that. You got to have the right words.
And it would have cost more to have an in-house person and pay their PERS and all that.
Amy, any signups, anything?
I don't have any
Okay.
public comment cards.
I'm not seeing anybody running up to comment. We'll go ahead and take a motion.
Move approval.
It's been moved by Portia for the staff's
I'll second.
recommendation, seconded by Dr.
second.
Gina. You're too late, Tim. Come on now.
That's all right.
And
It's 3
Hey,
hours
it's-
ahead for him.
any other comments or questions about the motion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Karpinski Costa,
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez Taft,
Absolutely.
Councilmember Middleton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Daniels.
Yes?
And Mayor Schaefer.
Aye.
Okay, next item, please.
Next item is department reports, and there are none. The next item is city manager items.
All right. Well, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, I do have a few brief updates to share with you. If we can go to the next slide. One that I wanted to really kind of highlight is we've been having some enhanced collaboration with our impact team at the police department and our beautification crew that's part of our general services department. So the beautification crew has been up and running since really kind of the beginning of this year and has done a lot of great work and has been coordinating with PD, but we're really kind of stepping that up and continuing to refine and optimize their collaboration. And ultimately too, there's also kind of pulling in the navigator, who's an important part of our, if you call it like a three-legged stool, if you will, to kind of address some of the issues that we're having with our unhoused population, because one, with the Navigator services, we want to make sure that we're trying to get people into the services they need, and ideally getting people off the streets, and then certainly we want to make sure that we have a clean environment for our residents and businesses, and also address public safety issues. So kudos to the team that have all been involved with that. Appreciate all your good work. But they've been, basically, some of the things they've been doing is kind of a daily assessment of our problem areas, and then coordinating schedules to make sure that they're meeting out there together to address items of concern. Our Navigator information is being provided as well to contacts that are made. And then when we have a dangerous situation, that's being dealt with in the appropriate ways. And then there's also been, through these contacts where somebody's really sick and, you know, has a bad infection, they've been able to get the medical provision. So there's been a lot of benefit through this increased collaboration, and then the cleanup too. The community appreciates seeing that. So wanted to just kind of highlight and thank the team for that, and make sure that the council and the community is aware of that increased collaboration that you may be seeing throughout the community. Here's a couple little before and after pictures at Crosswoods Community Park and Sylvan Oaks Library of some recent activities there. And, you know, we had done a big effort with Caltrans to clean up I-80 and Antelope, and we did recently have some activity pop up there. You can see there's some debris, and one of the things that we've talked about is a piece of litter attracts another piece of litter, so getting on that quick, it's amazing how quickly something can get out of hand. So appreciate the team immediately addressing that issue as it's come up. And then I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Public Works Showcase that Director Regina Cave talked about earlier. This is a great event. I know some of our council members were out there last year. A lot of fun, and it feels great to see kids as well as adults in the community that are able to connect up with some vocational pathways that they may or may not be aware of. But we had a number of vendors that actually tabled it, and you know, people were actually doing some real-time applications and learning more about job opportunities. So it's truly a great education and career fair, and it's fun too. I mean, I think last year there was snow cones and some popcorn and some good times had by all. So
Our strategic thing will end so that we can get over to this at 3 o'clock.
we'll have some motivation after the retreat to all walk over to the Public Works Showcase. And I think we might need to hide the keys to some of the equipment, though, so we don't have too much fun out there. But there will be quite a bit of equipment that is on site as well for people to come and experience and learn more about. But really encourage the community to come out for that. We will also have kind of a bike corral that's being provided by the Sacramento Area Bicycle Advocates, and it's at Van Maren Park. Just a great experience. Again, that's 3 to 6 on Thursday, May 18th. Who doesn't love this picture? But basically, one of the things that we're going to have is we're going to have some Mighty Munchers that are going to be coming to City of Citrus Heights. So we're going to be using goats and sheep between the weeks of May 22nd and June 2nd at the old Sylvan Middle School site, as well as the Twin Oaks Crestmont Moss Oak open space. And it's great because these goats and sheep are able to do a lot of the weed control that we'd otherwise have to use manpower and equipment for, and it's less noisy, it's better for the environment, and people like to see them. So if you're wondering why you're seeing a bunch of sheep and goats around, it's helping with our weed abatement. So I wanted to give a heads up to the council and the community that that's going to be occurring. And that concludes my updates.
Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Next item is items requested by council members or future agenda items.
Right, Jane?
I have one, and I don't exactly know how to word it, but I would like to revisit the park naming on Greenback Lane. And I got a strong suggestion, and I think it's such a wonderful idea to name that park Miller Park in honor of Steve Miller. So I would like that added to a future agenda.
Yeah, I think we're working on bringing that back as some sort of
Supposed to have a naming
ordinance or something like that, I think is what we decided on a few meetings
Remember, we
back.
voted to have a naming ordinance, and then after that, we'd go to a flash vote? We talked about it once at a meeting?
Okay, so that's in the works, definitely. Should need a second on that, or we're in the works on that, right?
Just to clarify, Councilmember Lopez staff, were you specifically looking for to be named, come back with that specific task of
Yes,
Councilmember
correct.
Miller's name, or come back generally for naming of the park?
It's for the specific name.
Okay, is there a second on that? I'm gonna hold off just because, again, we're coming back with this ordinance, this process, and so I think we still have time to reconsider that.
We'll definitely have a wide variety of options spoken to as part of that process, and that will be definitely coming back.
Okay,
Fair enough?
all right, anybody else? Portia, anything? Jane?
Yes,
Hold on, Mr. Mayor.
I,
Not your
I
turn.
have something.
Hold on, sir,
Okay.
hold on.
All right.
Jana, anything? Okay, and then for me, I would, again, apologize for missing the last meeting. That meeting resulted in a 2-2 vote on the feasibility study for Citrus Heights School District Committee formation, and I would like to bring that back for reconsideration.
And I'd like to second that.
And this is for the work plan of the committee?
Yeah, it's just the same exact, basically, item as the previous council meeting. Okay, and then, Mr. Mayor, you had something?
Nope, that was it.
Oh, okay. All right, anybody else, anything? Seeing nothing, we're adjourned.
Did you watch the, did you?